3 days was a long time, admittedly. But these things always took longer when you weren't using brute force. Much to his annoyance, agents of the Inquiry had already captured and executed most of the mutants' colleagues, liquidating crucial assets of his investigation before he could stop them. But a few still drew breath, and from them, he was determined to learn what he could of Fraser McLennan. If that took 3 days, or even 3 weeks, so be it. Ravel breathed out as if ready to lift a heavy weight in the strength foundry. If he'd had the room to move, he would have shook his head in wonder. It was a legitimate marvel that the great villain of humanity's fall still lived, or, to be more accurate, that some debased facsimile of the creature existed near 700 years later to answer for the original sin of its progenitor. Ravel tamped down on the visceral disgust, which always attended contemplation of such perversions to the genome. To the human soul, really. For now, he could not afford the indulgence of letting his feelings run free. His fingertips twitched to swipe away the video from the shuttle's external arrays and bring up the take from Colonel Marla Dunn's interrogation of the infamous war criminal. There wasn't much. The machine that had extracted McLennan had reached into the local networks, brushing aside 5 layers of quantum-shifting security like a fine lace curtain. It torched the primary data sources and murdered Colonel Dunn. At least, she was presumed dead. She had literally disappeared at the exact moment the homicidal AI arrived. The genome only knew what the thing had done with her, but the combined sensor fields of the surviving 101st revealed no trace of the officer anywhere in volume. Part of Ravel did not want to find out. There were rumors, approaching the realm of dark fairy tales, about the appetites of the so-called intellects. But finding out was his job. So he ignored the stink of his own body odors trapped inside the suit, and he reviewed the take. For the moment, this consisted of after-action reports compiled by the Ground Force Intelligence Cadre, assigned to the Vortrekker landing zone. Interviews, debriefs, even hostile interrogations with personnel who witnessed the incursion or had responsibilities for securing the site against such attacks. Most of them, Ravel noted, were now being questioned by the Inquiry. The shuttle's engine harmonics changed, and he felt the evolution as a distant vibration at the very moment he ordered the intelligence staffers released from the Inquiry's jurisdiction and directly into his supervision. He smiled inside the helmet. It was almost as though the goons got his message and stamped their little feet so hard it set the planet to ringing like a bell. But it mattered not. He was the personal weapon of Anaya's blade. Her cutting edge. And there was nothing the Inquiry could do about that. The voice of the shuttle pilot crackled in his ears. 2 minutes to first burn, Captain. Acknowledged, Ravel answered, flipping back to the sensor feed from the external arrays for a few seconds. From a perceived vantage point on the blunt, shovel-shaped nose of the combat shuttle, he watched the last ram ship take up station at the head of the convoy. A great, brutish club of a thing, most of its super-dense mass was concentrated in the hammerhead formation at the bow. The giant maneuvering engines burned with a pure white light of nuclear fire as the vessel took point ahead of its comrades. Initiating entry burn, the pilot announced shortly, and Ravel felt the power of the shuttle's much smaller engines as a deep, thrumming pulsation that transferred a nanoscale fraction of their power through the hull of the shuttle, the plasteel sheath of the crash pod, and the flexible panzer plate shields of his personal armor, to effect an unpleasant, deep-body harmonic throb somewhere between his nuts and his guts.